The brutal stretch for the Dallas Stars continues. They fall in Colorado by a final score of 5-1. The defense was non-existent, a lack of execution, the amount of hockey, the injuries, it's all starting to pile up in the month of February. Can they get out of it? Let's discuss next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Well, that was an ugly one last night for the Dallas Stars in Colorado. They get embarrassed by a final score of 5-1, and it feels like everything is starting to snowball, and it's coming at a head here in the month of February. Their Central Division lead has now evaporated. Winnipeg is tied with 79 points with the Stars. Colorado's right on their heels, and the struggles continue, but better days are ahead. I promise you, Stars fans, but that's not what today's episode is for. We are going to vent and we are going to release all of these frustrations. So let me know in the comment section, please. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That was just all sorts of bad last night in Colorado. I'll start with this. Dallas has played a lot of hockey, folks. And I know a lot of you do not want to hear this, but it was their third game in the last 4 nights. They've played 6 in their last 9. You get Colorado at home on 2 days of rest. This was going to be an uphill battle. And as I mentioned yesterday, they were going to need Ottinger to be spectacular. He was going to have to be otherworldly to have a chance in this one. And he wasn't. He was pretty pedestrian, but at the same time, the defense was non-existent in this one. They did not help him out whatsoever. And the amount of hockey does not excuse the poor performance, okay? I'm not trying to build in an excuse for them because it was poor every sense of the word. They just look drained, exhausted. And even when they were playing well during stretches of yesterday's game, they either couldn't score or couldn't keep the momentum. And by the time Colorado made it 4-1 in the second period, it was lights out. The Stars were not going to have enough energy to compete with the Avalanche. And it's unfortunate to say, but they've played a ton of hockey and they didn't have the juice. They just look tired, and you mix in the frustration of not being able to score yesterday and then mix in all the adversity and all the struggles recently, and it just feels like it's all rearing its ugly head right now. And that's what's happening. A lot of different guys played very, very poorly yesterday. Ryan Suter was terrible. He had a turnover that led to the first goal. He allowed cross-crease pass on a power play, something that should never happen in the second period. And Dallas was all out of sorts defensively. In back-to-back games now, and this is in reference to the Colorado second goal from Rantanen in the first, 4 white sweaters in front of Ottinger, I mean within a stick length of him. And then there's a rebound, and the opponent gets to it first. We saw the same thing on Monday against the Islanders, and it happened again. There's 4 white sweaters right on top of the crease. And the rebound somehow finds Rantanen. You just have to be better. And this has been a common theme throughout the season. They're just all out of sorts. They're not connected. They're not disciplined in front of their own net. And Ottinger wasn't great. Okay, he wasn't great, but spare me the Ottinger was terrible and he needs to go. I mean, there's nobody to be found. There was no resistance. McKinnon's goal, I mean, you just let the second best player in the world have the top of the circles in, and it's not a breakaway. You have 5 people in the offensive zone, and you just said, go ahead, have fun. Try to score. Like, there's no resistance whatsoever. The Cogliano goal. Lindell is 8 feet away from the puck. Like, his gap is terrible. It basically turned into a mini breakaway for Cogliano, and then he goes upstairs on Otter, and it just continued to snowball. I mean, the defense was non-existent last night, especially from the depth. Lindell had a really, really rough night. Hakanpää did not have a wonderful return, even though that was some exciting news coming into the game. And I wish we could sit here and be like, Hakanpää's back. Stars are going to start finding it, hopefully. But no, that's not the case. Lindell, minus 4.28 was his game score. Hakanpää, minus 2.25. Yeah. It was all sorts of ugly for the Stars. And it's unfortunate because they get on the board first. Stankoven, a minute into the hockey game, him and Johnston connect again. Here we go. Stars are going to jump on the attack. They're ready to play, and then they get scored on 5 times. 5 unanswered. And unfortunately, that's just been a theme of this season series. Colorado has buried them. Every time the Stars punch, Colorado goes for the uppercut and knocks them out. And that was the case. Yeah, it's real hard to look at the positives. And I'm going to sit here and also preach a little bit and throw caution to you. This Central Division race is not over. There is 21 games left into the season. The Stars' schedule gets much easier. It is really bad. They're 1-3-3 in their last 7. They're not scoring. The defense is bad. Everything is bad. The sky is not falling, folks. I promise you that. I really do. I really, really do. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. It's really rough right now, though. It is really rough, and it's really bad. But they're going to find a way to get out of it. They're too good. They got too many veterans on this team, I promise you. And it's the last thing you want to hear right now. I understand. It's the last thing you want to hear. But they're going to put it together. And the race is not over. I know Winnipeg's got 3 games in hand, but look, teams have really rough stretches, and this February grind is just part of that schedule where it's kind of like going to punch you in the face, and you just got to find a way to get through it. And that's what they're going to do. But it certainly doesn't excuse the performance, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. I know it's national TV and it's a big divisional rival game and everybody's making up to be this big thing, but look, you gotta take some context with it. And it was bad. Like, I'm not here to sugarcoat it and try to tell you it's all sunshine and rainbows, but they played pretty decent at 5-on-5 in the first 2 periods. They just couldn't score. And Georgiev was good. He made big stops when he needed to. And as I mentioned, once Colorado built up a lead, Dallas just did not have the energy to get back. The third period was like, let's get out of here and go back home and we'll reset. 34 shots on goal, outshot him 34-27. Power play was 0 for 2, and that continues to be ugly at some points. even though the power plays really never mattered in the game. But now you're seeing, at least in the last three, Johnston and Stankoven are your best two players. Like, where's Roope? Where's Robertson? And maybe I'll save some of this for this lack of execution segment upcoming, because there was one play that I think just embodiments this whole month. And I think tells the story for the Stars here in the month of February that I have to get into, revolving around Jason Robertson. So I'll hold off on this little rant and we'll get into it in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is obsessed with finding you ways to save money on tickets. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. And you can buy tickets within seconds. They have deals right up to the start of the event. Football games, basketball games, you got baseball, spring training has already begun, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, Game Time has it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, Stars fans. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, that's Locked On, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams. You have quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. What about that Dallas Mavericks game last night? The 60-foot heave from the Cavaliers to win it. The Mavericks blew a lead late. The officiating was very, very controversial down the stretch, however. But the Mavericks and Luka Doncic, go ahead and make some money while you're watching the Mavs down the stretch here this season. Just go to FanDuel.com. You've heard me talk about it throughout this season. NBA, get in on the action. Use the code LOCKEDON. Shoot your shot on FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Okay, I really want to get into this point in a play last night in the third period of the game, which I think just embodies what Dallas is going through right now. And it comes from Jason Robertson. The Stars had numbers going the other way. I believe it was Duchesne that carried the puck into the zone. He dropped it off to Robertson, and Duchesne kept cutting towards the net. He drew two defensemen with him to the net. And by the time Duchesne is set up in front, or whoever it was, I can't remember exactly, Robertson was at the top of the circles, and I mean, had 5 feet of ice in front of him to continue working downhill and get a shot on Georgiev, and sort of hesitated or didn't see the lane, and then cut back against the grain, which allowed the back checkers for the Avs to get back into the play. And then he had to try to force a shot on net, and it ended up getting blocked, and the opportunity just fizzled away. And I think that just shows what the Stars are going through. They're just thinking too much. I mean, a premier goal scorer that had 48 goals last season, who had all sorts of room to work in and get a shot on net, like, hesitated or just didn't see it. Like, they're thinking too much. They need to just react. And the third period, I get it, was pretty much for Dallas, like, let's just get home. Let's get on the flight and be done with this. But there's too many of those moments where they're just not being simple. They're trying to make the pretty play. And they have to simplify things right now, because they do not have their full accompaniment of players. They do not have their full lineup. They need to be simple. And they're just overthinking right now. And the Stars had so many odd man rushes in the first two periods. What was it, 3 or 4 2-on-1s, and just couldn't score. They have the most goals in the NHL off the rush this season and just couldn't find a way to bury it. And with some great players too. I mean, Johnston had a couple of looks, and Jamie Benn also had one, and the execution just hasn't quite been there. They haven't been able to score a ton recently. One against Colorado, 2 the other night against New York. They got 2 in the win over Carolina, 1 against Ottawa, 1 against New York, and then they had 3 in Boston, and then against Edmonton. So they've been struck a little bit. They've been stricken in the goal scoring department, and multiple guys are having it. Where's Roope? He seems to be all out of sorts. Doesn't seem to be 100%. Pavelski just can't find the back of the net. Robertson isn't having enough looks. It'd be one thing if he was getting chances and putting the puck on net, but we're not seeing that. He's just kind of coasting. And the Johnston line was really the only one that seemed to have some pep in it. And Duchesne in spurts. Marchment was trying to make things happen, trying to be physical, but he certainly needs some help. They've been pretty dimensional, one-dimensional lately. And for a team that's had a steady balance in offense this season, it can certainly be concerning. They outchanced the Avalanche 35-25. And look, chances don't mean anything if you don't convert them. But they were pretty good at 5-on-5, and they made some things happen. But making things happen just isn't good enough. You got to find a way to put pucks home. And as I stated earlier, there was 4 guys that I thought played well, and the rest are just kind of behind. Miro looked really good. He was trying to single-handedly create some offense for himself and others. Harley had his moments. Stankoven and Johnston, and then Ben to some degree. But other than that, it was just a kind of a bunch of meh. It was a bunch of mid, and yeah, they haven't scored a ton either. I mean, they're averaging what, just about 2 goals per game in their last 7 during this stretch, and it's not good enough. It certainly isn't, and they've gotten goaltended in some of those. Like, you have to take that into account. They've run into some hot goalies, but also they're just not scoring. They're just not executing. And it's just another thing that I think is starting to wear on them. And I think it starts to become your identity to some degree, where it's like you hold your stick too tight and all that good stuff. And I think it's just catching up to them. It's a lot of hockey. It's a lot of disappointment. And yeah, and then you got to tack on the losses with that. It's really, really hard to get out of that rut. It's really hard to get out of it and start playing to your potential. And like, I want to come on here and throw some caution to the wind and be like, things are going to be okay. I understand it's really, really bleak in February, but I get it. Like, it's bad. It really is. And they need a defenseman. And look, at this point, you're going to have to be willing to give up a first-round pick, maybe 2, in order to make this team what they deserve to be. And that's a true Stanley Cup contender. But they're not right now in their current form. They're just not with the lineup they're throwing out there, because they're going to have to beat a Colorado. They're going to have to beat a Winnipeg come playoff time. You're going to have to face one of those teams at some point, whether that's in the first round, whether that's in the second round, whether that's in the Western Conference Finals, right? You're going to have to figure out a way to beat a Colorado or Winnipeg. But they're just not playing good right now. They're a shell of themselves. They truly are. They're a shell of themselves. And I do caution to jump ship and be the world is falling down and this team's terrible. They were never good. Look, it's a roller coaster. It is. This is every year. And they had some really bad stretches last season too. I promise you. And they found a way to get to the conference finals. That's just that's kind of how it is. But it's bad. Look, it is really bad. and they just got to find a way to execute. They got to bear down a bit more. And it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. But the division is not over. They still have a very, very good opportunity to win the Central Division. It's going to come down to the last week of the season. And maybe you can take down Winnipeg on Thursday. And we can all take a nice breath and all relax. But yeah, they just need to get out of February. Thankfully, it's the shortest month of the year, and March is right around the corner. Let's talk about the Stars needing to find a way here down the stretch, and it will come in a multitude of ways. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also on Amazon Fire TV on the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Be sure to follow Locked On Stars on Twitter. You can follow me at the X thing, whatever it's called nowadays, at Joey the Jet 19 as well. Well, taking a look at the Central Division standings. Stars tied at the top with the Jets, 79 points. Winnipeg has 4 games in hand. Colorado at 77 points through 60. So just 2 points behind. And both of those teams are putting together a pretty good stretch. And the Stars have certainly dipped in their play lately. And they got to find a way to push through this really, really brutal stretch. And March gets much easier. And that may not bring you much comfort because, they haven't played well against some of even the bad teams they've played. And I get that, but they get San Jose 3 times in the month of March. They get Anaheim, they get Arizona. And of course, there's some very good teams mixed in there as well. But trust me, their schedule really, really lightens up. And you can see a lot more W's coming their way in the month of March. But they have to go out and get somebody. They just have to, right? And if you're Calgary, who the Stars are linked to their Flames defenseman, Chris Tanev, I wouldn't take anything less than a first-round pick. With the way things are going, right? You're watching this, like Jim Neal gets a bit more desperate every single game. Every single game, the price tag goes up. And I talked about this really early on in the season, if you remember, probably before Christmas. Like, the Stars might need to think about going out to get somebody now, because the price tag was going to go up. I use that as a possibility. I played that scenario out because as the deadline approaches and you get desperate, the price tag's going to go up from these teams. And the Stars could see themselves in that situation. If you're Calgary, you're like, hey, you're going to have to toss in a first round pick. And I'm all for it. I'm really all for it. I feel like if you grab Tanev and another defenseman, I think your outlook of this team really changes because the pieces are there. And yes, it's been really, really ugly the last 2 weeks, but I think we can all acknowledge this team has the pieces to win it all. They've shown that the majority of the season. They've showed that for 50 games that they are ready to compete. And if you just fill in some of those gaps, those holes that we've talked about ad nauseum here on Locked On Stars recently, you're going to have a much better outlook. And I think that would take a lot of negativity around this team. If you do have some of that, I think you would feel a lot better. I mean, let me know in the comment section if they went out and got Tanev and another defenseman into this lineup. I think you got to feel a lot better. But, okay, yeah, they're ready to go. And then you feel better about taking on a Colorado or Winnipeg because they don't have the speed or the depth to hold up with Colorado's top line. And McKinnon's world class. Like, nobody can keep up with him, to be completely honest. But you have to defend those type of players with bodies, with just guys, with waves. You have to force him to go through layers of defense. And yesterday we saw it just going at will towards the Stars net. And it wasn't just McKinnon. It was the fourth line for Colorado had their way at points because Dallas just lacked the foot speed to keep up. And they got to find a way to get more mobile and get tougher and get physical on the back end. And they don't have the in-house solution, right? It's not going to change until the trade deadline. And I come on here every day and just bore you with saying they need to get somebody. And I try not to do that because look, I'm stating the obvious there. We all know the issue. We knew the issue coming into the season. We knew the issue 30 games in. We knew the issue 50 games in. We now know the issue 60 games in. I'm not one to sit and gross about it constantly, and I don't think I have. I've tried to be a bit more positive. Look, I didn't even talk about the loss on Monday. or I really didn't. I just celebrated Stankoven because Stankoven's been good. I should have just opened up celebrating him again. Goals in back-to-back games. Hey, at least that's something positive. It seems to be the only good thing going on right now for the Stars is that they've hit on their 2021 second round pick. And gosh, he probably should have been up a lot sooner. And I know many of you were clamoring for that at the beginning of the year. But it's safe to say he's not going anywhere. Even when Sagan comes back, even if Dadonov comes back, he's not going anywhere. And if he does, it's a complete travesty on the staff, the coaching staff, and the front office. You can't put him anywhere. He has to stay in the lineup. He's made Johnston and Ben like the best line. They've been the best line over the last 3 days. They need some help. They need the top line to get going again. They just need anybody to get going again. I promise, better things are ahead, Stars fans. Better things are ahead. It sucks. It really does. And I despise coming on to talk about yesterday's game, but I did the best I could. They get a day off. And they're back home against Winnipeg on Thursday. We will talk about it tomorrow. Hopefully have a better attitude. Hopefully a good night's rest will relinquish the bitterness of yesterday's loss. Alrighty. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this rant / venting session. We've had a few of these recently, but I think it's good. Let it out. Let your frustrations out in the comment section, please. Even on Twitter. Bury me. Take it out on me if you need to. I will gladly accept it. And I love hearing your thoughts because yeah, it's disgusting at some points. Performances have been poor. Better times are ahead, okay? Better times are ahead. And yes, they are still first place in the Central Division. And you're going to hate me for saying that, but it's true. Alrighty. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you tomorrow. That's all I got. So long, Stars fans.